Hi, this is a PowerPoint presentation on nonverbal communication by Jane Renneke. So we'll start by saying there are many ways nonverbal communication is expressed without using language. Using your hands to gesture words to explain yourself, or moving the 43 different muscles in the face in different ways. Some are harder for everyone to understand, like cultural expressions, and some are more broadly translated, like frowning, which communicates sadness. Changing the tone of your voice can let someone know that you are angry or serious about what you are saying. Eye contact can express respect during a conversation, or act as windows to our soul and tell volumes about some people. Both of my daughters cannot lie. So as soon as they start speaking, I can tell that they're lying by the lack of eye contact and the body language they are portraying. Posture can also relate to someone that they are open and having a verbal conversation with them. Nonverbal communication is the first impression you have on people even before you open your mouth. It is your own personal way of animation. Some people speak very loudly through nonverbal communication, and others seem quite milder. In the end, how the nonverbal communication is transferred is dependent not only on the person's mad charade skills, but also the other person's ability to translate effectively. Charles Spurgeon was an English teacher, theologian, and master of nonverbal communication in the 1800s. And during a lecture to his theology students, when asked how to describe heaven and hell, he said that when you talk about heaven, let your facial expressions show joy and excitement. And when you talk about hell, your normal facial expressions will do. That's Spurgeon. All right, and here is our first slide. I call this guy Wit. The first thing that comes to my mind when viewing a picture of Wit is joy. This man appears to be pretty happy and possibly responding to a joke or funny gesture of another person. Perhaps he is recalling a funny memory. Either way, the wide smile on his face and the open stance and the head-rubbing mannerism demonstrates joy, laughter, and happiness. This type of energy can be contagious, and negatively, this joy might be a barrier for others to come to him with serious problems or personal issues they're experiencing. This next slide, I refer to this lady as Sophie. And Sophie appears to be sitting for a photograph, but it looks like the photographer may have taken the picture a little prematurely before she had time to form a full smile. She appears to be happy and pleasant from the expression on her face, and somewhat reserved, which I picked up from her body language, her posture. Her legs are crossed, and her hands are on her lap. She is making eye contact, which makes her appear to trust the person taking the picture in some sense. But Sophie's warmth in her eyes might allow one to be comfortable to fully open up to her personally. But her soft heart can be a target for people who have ulterior motives and who are out to manipulate someone for personal gain. Be careful, Sophie. This is Bo. He is a Middle Eastern snake charmer. He takes his job very seriously, and as you can see in his eyes in the photo, the job of a snake charmer has many occupational hazards for Bo, as well as the audience he is entertaining. His eyes are laser focused on a snake at the moment. His body language shows he is ready to respond to the slightest dangerous behavior of the snake. Onlookers would know not to interrupt his focus at this time, which would make him unapproachable for communication. People probably feel safe seeing how attentive and in control Bo is. Let's move on. This is Zola. Zola is a Nigerian debutante in the midst of an arranged marriage negotiation between her family and the family of her husband, Peter. You can tell by the photo that the debutante is not allowed to speak or have physical contact with Peter until they enter into marriage. This is demonstrated by her slightly turned stance and her side-eyeing look, and the hands of the women on her shoulders. They are resting their hands out of the need to comfort her and remind her to stay back. The restraint of the women may also be a way of reminding her that she has to stay in the conversation. Maybe she's being defiant. Maybe she doesn't want to marry Peter. Either way, her crossed arms show she feels uncomfortable to some degree, and she could give the other family the impression she's being forced into this against her will. Her facial expressions does show she is very interested in the conversation, even though her body language says she wants to run away. Okay. And lastly, actions speak louder than words. In these slides, we see the phrase, actions speak louder than words, and it's very true. Many information can be gained in those first few seconds of a first impression. In my own experience, I do have to say that nonverbal communication is not only intuitive, but also has shaped my own perception of things. I learned behavior from past experiences. Although nonverbal communication is a good tool to have, I always take into consideration my impression may be warped in just a slight sense. Well, thank you so much for viewing my video, my PowerPoint. I hope you enjoyed it.